What would you do if a little girl, with tears in her eyes, looked up at a stranger and whispered, "Can you be my mommy?" While her powerful CEO father stood frozen. Friends, this story will touch your heart and make you believe in kindness again. Watch till the end, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Goodness Corner for more life-changing stories. The busy cafe smelled of fresh bread, roasted coffee, and the faint sweetness of vanilla. Mia wiped her hands on her apron and placed 2 steaming plates of pancakes on table 4. She had been a waitress here for 3 years, ever since life had thrown her dreams off course. With her soft brown eyes and gentle smile, Mia had a way of making customers feel at home, even though her own life was far from easy. She lived in a small rented room, barely managing bills, but she never let her hardships take away her kindness. That afternoon, the cafe door opened with the sound of the little silver bell, and everyone turned their heads. A tall man in a dark tailored suit stepped in, his polished shoes clicking on the floor. His presence alone demanded attention, confident posture, sharp jawline, and a gaze that made people step aside. Behind him, holding his hand tightly, was a little girl no older than 5. She had curly hair tied into pigtails and wide innocent eyes that scanned the room with curiosity. Whispers filled the cafe. People recognized him immediately, Alexander Knight, the billionaire CEO of one of the biggest companies in the city. Known for his ruthless business decisions and cold demeanor, he rarely showed up in public places like this. But today, he was just a father with a little girl clutching his hand. "Table for 2?" Mia asked, forcing her voice to stay steady as she approached. The little girl looked up at her and gave the shyest smile, while Alexander simply nodded. He barely looked at Mia, his phone already in his hand, fingers tapping quickly as though even seconds of waiting were wasted time. Mia led them to a corner table by the window. She handed them menus, but the little girl tugged on Alexander's sleeve. "Daddy, can I order by myself?" she asked softly. Alexander paused, then sighed. "Fine. But make it quick." His eyes never left the screen. Mia crouched down so she was eye level with the girl. "And what would you like, sweetheart?" she asked warmly. The little girl's eyes sparkled. "Chocolate pancakes with strawberries. And hot chocolate with marshmallows." Her tiny voice carried so much excitement that Mia couldn't help but laugh. "Great choice," Mia said, writing it down. "And for you, sir?" Alexander muttered something about black coffee and a salad without dressing, still distracted. Mia walked away, but she felt something strange tugging at her heart. The little girl's smile was bright, but her eyes carried loneliness that no child should have. As Mia served the food later, she noticed the contrast. Alexander scrolled through his phone, barely touching his salad, while his daughter devoured her pancakes with pure delight. Every now and then, she'd glance at her father, hoping he'd notice her happiness, but his eyes never left the glowing screen. Mia's chest tightened at the sight. When the little girl dropped her fork, Mia bent quickly to pick it up. That's when the child leaned closer and whispered, "You're really nice. Can I tell you a secret?" Mia blinked, surprised. "Of course, sweetheart." The little girl hesitated, then whispered words that made Mia's heart stop. "Can you be my mommy?" Mia froze, her breath catching. She looked into those pleading eyes, filled with hope and sadness far beyond her years. For a second, the cafe around her disappeared. She wanted to hug the girl right then and there, but she swallowed hard and managed a soft smile. "Why would you say that, honey?" The child lowered her gaze. "Because I don't have one. Daddy tries, but he's always so busy. And you're kind. Mommy would be like you, right?" Her voice cracked. Mia's throat tightened. Before she could respond, Alexander finally looked up, his phone forgotten for the first time. His icy blue eyes widened as he heard his daughter's words. For the first time, the powerful CEO was utterly frozen. Alexander's hand gripped the edge of the table, his chest rising and falling faster than he wanted anyone to notice. No one in years had been able to shatter his composure like this, and it wasn't a rival businessman or a hostile board member. It was his little girl. His Olivia. And a waitress. He had spent years building walls around his heart after losing his wife during childbirth. He had buried himself in work, convincing himself that providing wealth and comfort was enough. But here was Olivia, asking a stranger, a waitress, to be the mother she longed for. Mia felt the weight of Alexander's gaze but refused to flinch. Instead, she brushed a stray curl from Olivia's forehead. "Sweetheart, I think your daddy loves you very much," she said gently. "Sometimes grown-ups forget how to show it." Alexander opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He had closed billion-dollar deals with ease, negotiated with the toughest lawyers, but right now, he felt powerless. Olivia pouted. "But he never smiles. He doesn't play with me. He just works, works, works," her little fists balled up. "I just want someone to hug me when I'm sad." Mia's heart broke. She wanted to scoop the girl into her arms and protect her from the loneliness that money could never fix. But she also knew she had to be careful. Looking up, she met Alexander's conflicted eyes. For a brief moment, she saw something raw in them, guilt, pain, and maybe even fear. The cafe had quieted. People pretended not to stare, but every ear was listening. Alexander finally stood, his towering figure casting a shadow across the table. "Olivia," his voice cracked slightly, "finish your pancakes." But Olivia shook her head stubbornly and turned to Mia. "Please, just say yes. Just say you'll be my mommy." Tears welled up in her eyes, and they weren't the kind that could be ignored. Mia knelt down again, her own eyes shining. "Oh, darling, being a mommy isn't something you can just say. It's about love, care, and time. And you already have a daddy who loves you." Alexander felt something in his chest break. He realized he hadn't heard anyone speak to Olivia with that much tenderness in years. His business empire suddenly seemed meaningless compared to his daughter's tears. "Mia," he finally said, his voice lower, softer, almost vulnerable. I don't know what to do. She needs more than I can give." Mia looked at him, surprised. The man everyone described as cold and untouchable suddenly seemed human. "Start small," she said simply. "Put the phone down. Look at her. Listen. That's all she wants." Her words pierced deeper than any business advice he had ever received. Slowly, Alexander sat back down. He placed his phone face down on the table and looked at Olivia, really looked at her. For the first time in a long time, he smiled. A real smile. Olivia gasped, her tears turning into giggles. "Daddy, you smiled." She climbed into his lap and hugged him tightly, as though afraid he'd vanish if she let go. The cafe erupted into soft applause. People wiped their eyes, touched by the moment. And Mia? She stood quietly, her heart both aching and hopeful. She had no idea that her simple kindness had changed the course of two lives forever. Later, as Alexander paid the bill, he hesitated. "Mia," he said, his tone uncertain, "would you, maybe join us for dinner sometime?" "Olivia clearly," he trailed off, not sure how to phrase it without sounding desperate. Mia's cheeks warmed. She glanced at Olivia, who was nodding furiously with excitement. "Yes. Please. Please come." Mia hesitated. Her life was complicated, filled with struggles she didn't want to burden them with. But as she looked into Olivia's hopeful eyes and Alexander's softened expression, she realized maybe, just maybe, some meetings were destined. She smiled softly. "We'll see." And in that moment, for the first time in years, Alexander Knight felt something money could never buy, hope, and that's how a little girl's innocent question changed the heart of a powerful billionaire and brought kindness into his world. Friends, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Goodness Corner, because more inspiring stories are waiting for you.